Zoho CRM is one of the most popular sales tools for small and medium-sized businesses. It has over 250,000 companies using it worldwide. Users love its budget-friendly pricing and multitude of features and configuration options. But with so many options available, it can also appear more complex and harder to get started with than other solutions that are on the market. But the real question is Zoho CRM the right fit for you? In this video, we'll take a deep dive into Zoho CRM, its features, pricing, ease of use, integrations, and the real pros and cons of the platform. Hi, I'm Dan Lehman from SoftwareFinds.com, where we help you find the software that meets the specific needs of your business. Interestingly enough, Zoho CRM was the first CRM that I ever implemented. I've since gone on to work on hundreds of different CRM projects, but it's kind of fun to come back and see how much has changed over these past several years. So let's go ahead and dive in. The first thing I see here is my homepage. This is pre-configured for me, but we can also tailor as we want to show different experiences on this homepage. You'll notice that we have several different layers of navigation. So on the leftmost side, we have our different modules. These are the different tables or core entities that we have within Zoho. We also have reports, analytics, some requests. We've got marketplace, their AI agent. We can create new things down at the bottom. So this is all compressed into this very narrow band. Here, when we toggle between these different areas, now we can see these different lists. The core area, of course, that we're going to be in is our modules, but you can see there's a lot of options to choose from. Now we're on a list of leads and we have different filters here. Or if I clicked into a specific lead, now we have our related list of records. Now, if that's not enough for you from a navigation standpoint, we also have navigation elements down here on the bottom. Now, a lot of this is really helpful. For example, we have sticky notes where wherever we are in the application, we can have our notes up. So if we're on a call, we're talking to a prospect, we can have those notes right up in front of us. But overall, you can see how there's some potential to have a little bit of cluttering take place because we have so many different levels of nested navigation. And I think that's a theme that you're going to find as we go throughout the application is that you have so many options. It's such a powerful platform. But for those of you who get information overload and you want a really simplified experience, that's where Zoho struggles a little bit, is that they give you so many options. So let's talk through the sales process for a moment. Our core modules here in sales are going to be leads, contacts, accounts, and deals. We can, of course, import leads if we want to, or we could create our leads manually. Now, this experience is fine for creating a lead. We can configure which fields that we want to fill out. But notice this, and this is such a small, petty thing on my part that I'm so focused on this. But the fact that you could spin up a trial today in 2025, almost 2026, and you're still going to see a Skype ID as one of the primary fields, it just goes to show Zoho's been around for a long time and certain things get improved upon and certain things just kind of stay the way that they've always been. If I open up a lead here, one of the things I really like is this related list of objects or modules down the left-hand side. Instead of having to scroll through and see all of the information about our lead, we can simply click and see information about connected records. It's just going to take us there, or attachments, or products, or different kinds of activities. Zia is the name of the AI platform for Zoho. We can expand this here, and so you can see we've got some basic options, but it can be helpful. For example, we want to see a record summary. And so this can give us a recap of a given lead or whatever kind of record that we're on. But I'm a little bit disappointed that, at least in my experience, the AI didn't look to the related records that we have. So for example, here's a real lead that I have, and I had to convert over from an email that I brought in from the Chrome extension. Now, if I click on a record summary, I would explain that it would talk about, hey, here's how we got this lead and information about what they're interested in. And it doesn't. It just gives me very high-level field information about ownership and email engagement with their communication preferences. This isn't very useful. Now, when it comes to converting a lead, I can simply press the convert button. And this follows the common practice for CRMs, where when you convert a lead, that means it's going to create a contact record, an account record, and then you can also have a deal record as well. One of the things that I like is that it gives you an option to create a deal. So there might be some situations where you want to convert them to being an account and contact, but you don't necessarily have that material opportunity, so it really leaves it up to you. I also really like the fact that you can create your own mapping logic here. So if you want certain fields mapped from that lead to go onto the deal or to go onto the account, that is all within your ability. Once we've converted and created our deals, we can then click onto our deals module. This by default is going to show that Kanban style view that you're probably used to inside of a CRM. So as our deals move between stages, we can click and manually drag those to be able to manage our pipeline. Now, what's nice about Zoho is, yes, it is a CRM, but it's also really essentially a no-code application builder in the background. So many other CRMs won't offer the full flexibility. In Zoho, you can have a Kanban here. We could shift this over to a list view if we wanted to. Maybe we want to have a chart view. We could turn this into, let's say a timeline if we want to see our opportunities mapped over time. All of that, we've got the flexibility to configure the way we want to be able to visualize that information. Now I can go ahead and open up one of the deals that we're working on. You can see we have our different stages here as these visual processes, and it's easy to be able to mark this as a closed won or as a closed lost. As you'd expect, down the side, we can see those related modules. So we can quite easily create a brand new quote. We can say new quote off of this deal. It's going to plug in the information we already know, like the contact, the account, the billing information. And we can easily choose from a product catalog, be able to select different items, update our quantities, and all of that information then allows us to save that quote and be able to send it to our prospect. Because Zoho is really this end-to-end CRM, it also provides some additional functionality, such as we can take that quote and actually then go ahead and convert it to a sales order or to an invoice. That's typically a step that's beyond most CRMs. Next, let's talk about activity tracking, especially when it comes to email. So my organization uses Gmail. You don't have to use Zoho Mail. You can use Gmail, Outlook, or other providers. I set up my Gmail integration, and it took about 12 hours for this to be able to process. That's quite a bit slower in my experience compared to other CRMs that we've set up, and it just starts working within minutes. The other part I'm a little bit confused about is if the email sync is supposed to actually sync in contacts. In almost every other CRM I've tested, the email sync is actually taking the email addresses and creating contact records for us. But here, despite my email sync being complete, I only have 10 records created for my contacts, and this is just the stock data that comes out of the box. There's a couple cool features when it comes to your email. One of them is email parsing. You can create your own email parsing logic to be able to send emails to a given email address, and it can look through that email and find information to automatically create records. Another thing we can do with Zoho's email is to get a unique email address, and it's called this BCC Dropbox. It has nothing to do with Dropbox software itself, but basically you could just BCC an email that you're sending to someone and have it automatically logged to the CRM. With that, we can also do the same for an email parser. So maybe you want to take invoices or some other kind of document, some text in that email, and you want to send it to that email. It can then go ahead and parse the content of that email to then push that information inside of Zoho. Once you've got email configuration set up, you can also send emails directly from Zoho, so you don't have to always pivot back and forth between your email and Zoho. So here we've got this nice UI that comes up for messaging, and one of the common things you're going to want to do is to be able to insert a template. You can create your own templates like I've done here. Here's one for an industry intro, and that's going to be able to pull in different template variables, kind of like mail merge, so that you can say, hi, first name, and then inject any of that important information from the record so you can template that out. There's also a feature known as mass emailing. So we could take our own filtered list or our own view here. We could select multiple records, and then we could send an email. And this is going to send everybody their own email. Again, we can tap into templates, but now we don't have to go one by one. We can do it to a larger group. Another option we have for automating emails is called Cadences. Many other CRM platforms call these sequences, but it's the same idea. So for example, we could send an intro email, and then we could have a follow-up action, either sending another email, creating a task for ourselves, creating a call record, to be able to follow up then and use some kind of logic. What do we want to do? Well, do we want to do this immediately? Do we want to have some wait time? Do we want to make sure that they've opened the email or clicked through an email? Or maybe they didn't open up that email. That kind of logic is going to allow us to create that cadence to be able to follow up with our prospects automatically. Now, there's one email feature that seemed a little bit goofy to me, and that is because if you look at the pricing page for Zoho CRM and you look under marketing automation, it talks about mass email here. That's what we just talked about, of sending multiple emails to people on lists that you have. And it says this limit only applies to the org's sales activities. Kindly check Zoho campaigns for campaigning purposes. Okay, that makes sense. We want to send marketing campaigns or email campaigns to people. We keep those separate from just kind of our bulk sales email tool. What's confusing though is that here on our sales page, on this pricing page, under marketing automation, it says campaigns. Oh yeah, campaigns are included at any level here. But campaigns in Zoho CRM are really just a reporting mechanism. If you want to be able to have budget assigned to a campaign of how you market to people, you can track that campaign inside of Zoho CRM. But that campaigns feature by Zoho is entirely different than Zoho Campaigns. Zoho Campaigns is for marketing automation for email and SMS, and that is a different priced service. So I don't know if this just isn't good attention to detail or if someone's being a little bit disingenuous here, but this is a little bit confusing to have campaigns next to mass email and have them mean entirely different things. Now, in addition to the email sync functionality, we can also install a Chrome extension, which is going to allow us to have this extension on the side here whenever we open up our emails. So when I open up an email, if we don't yet have a lead or a contact, we're going to be prompted to, and this has pretty good information. It's able to extract this information like the phone number and inject it into mobile, and then I can easily come down here and add a new lead. And then if the lead already exists, we've got information that we can review, we can add notes to ourselves, we could see any activities or campaigns associated with it. I'd say this is a little bit on the weaker side when it comes to Chrome extensions with CRMs. Yes, we can use it to create a couple of those records like leads or contacts and view really basic information. But many other CRMs would include functionality to make it easier to tap into Zoho functionality from inside the Compose window, and that we don't really have access to. It's just very simple in terms of viewing information and creating a new record. One email feature that I can't really figure out for the life of me is this sales inbox. If I click on it, it takes me to a very different kind of UI here. And I can see an inbox of all my emails that have synced, and I can compose new emails and I can view my emails, but I can't really figure out its core purpose. I suppose it might be if we have multiple accounts that we're managing, like a team account or a sales account, to view that in one spot. But when we have our individual emails, I'd much prefer to see it in the context of a given record, like my contact or lead, than coming into what seems like a very different standalone UI. Zoho does support other channels as well. If you need telephony, they have their own standalone Zoho Voice, their own VoIP solution, or you can integrate to other third-party providers. You're also able to create a client portal if you want to manage your sales data with other parties. So maybe you sell through a channel and you've got partners, you want to create a partner CRM. You can do that by choosing what kind of information they're able to access in a portal that you set up. There's also a mobile app that you can use for the CRM. It's pretty simple, but we've seen some progress in it over time. We've got a calendar here to see what's coming up. We've got our home area where we can see different tasks that I'm working on. I can also call a lead, and let's call it from my dialer. Now, one of the really interesting features here is that it actually displays over the top of my phone that lead information. That's pretty unique. I haven't seen that in many other CRMs, that we can have an overlay of the customer's information while we're on the actual phone itself. Then we're prompted to save their information, which we can do easily to track that new activity history. So overall, the mobile has a pretty simple, easy to use experience. Let's jump into forms. You can create multiple different forms and types of forms. You can edit this and we can add any of the fields that we want mapped from Zoho so that we could put this as a contact form or elsewhere on our website. When we click next here, we can take some custom actions on this. So for example, what do we want to have happen when we get a form submission? Well, we can send a notification to the owner of those leads. We can send different acknowledgments to the user. If you are using Sales IQ, this is really powerful because now once they have a form submission on file, you can track what your visitors are doing on your website. So maybe if they're going to different pricing pages or high value pages and they've submitted this form, you can now follow up and actually look at, hey, what has this person done on my website to get context of their buyer's journey? The forms themselves are not the most configurable, but remember Zoho bakes in a ton of other features. Like if you want multi-page forms, we have those too, but they're not in the standard web forms. Zoho also lets you create calendar bookings so that you can manage your calendar and who can actually book time on it. So I've set one up for a 30-minute meeting here. And now I can share this link with anybody. Here's a half-hour slot they can book on my calendar, put their information in, and that gets updated inside of Zoho. It's not as full-featured as a Calendly, but if you're trying to cut down on your subscriptions, this is something you can do out of the box with Zoho. Zoho differentiates between reports and analytics. Here's an example of a report. We're just talking high-level data here where we're looking at quotes by stage, what stage we were in. We're in draft stage. Here are the quotes that we had for that. So this is something that you can generate on a periodic basis. Analytics, on the other hand, are going to be the charts that you have on dashboards. One of the things that I really like about Zoho's dashboards, you'd be surprised how many CRMs, they talk about pipelines, but they don't have anything that actually looks like a sales funnel or pipeline. So I like that we've got that here. We can also actually click into these so we can see the underlying deals that are in each of those stages. But the real power of Zoho CRM really comes down to how much automation and configuration you can do of the platform. I'm going to rapid fire show you a whole bunch of little examples of what you can do. First off, we have the ability to run macros, and you can create a macro that's basically like a mini automation that allows you to interact with, say, a lead record. We could send an email, update some fields, add a task. Pretty simple in functionality, but easy to simplify the number of clicks that you have. Zoho makes it easy to be able to create our own custom fields, and we can create our own modules, which are essentially custom objects. We can create our own workflow rules, which consist of triggers, conditions, and actions. And for actions, we can send email notifications, create tasks, update fields, use webhooks to trigger things outside the system, like if we're using Make or Zapier. And we've got Actions by Zoho Flow, which allows us to create our own integrations within the platform. Wizards are a way we can create internal multi-page forms to better intake complex data. Kiosks allow us to create custom no-code interfaces to manage specific processes, such as an order lookup. Canvas allows you to create your own custom designs for lists, details, and forms. This is what you'd want to use if you want to make a more simplified view, or maybe you want to have like a real estate view. Blueprints are essentially process playbooks that allow you to map and enforce processes. So here's how we would nurture our leads. And we can see criteria for before, during, and after the event. Signals lets you tailor what kinds of notifications that you want to receive based on sales activities. Zoho Pathfinder helps you map customer activities across their customer journey. Zoho has both APIs and SDKs. So with the APIs, you can build your own integrations. And with the SDK, you can actually create your own custom mobile application. If you need to store and reuse static information across the Zoho application, you can do that with variables. Zoho Circuits is an orchestration engine that allows you to create more complex automations. Functions let you build your own calculations. You can build them from scratch, or there's a template library. If you want to build your own custom UI components, you can do this with widgets utilizing various JavaScript frameworks. And you can even create more custom experiences with client scripting. So really, it's insane the amount of automation and configuration and extension of this software. You can essentially make it do whatever you want. So let's briefly talk about Zoho CRM as it relates to pricing. What I find really interesting is if you Google Zoho CRM pricing, I see it talking all about the free edition and free for 3 users. Now, if we click into the pricing page itself, it tells a very different story. It's not that they don't offer a free plan, but they're very clearly trying to hide it. Because nowhere up here do we see, hey, here's our free plan. Right away, they're trying to get us into standard and above. And it's not until we scroll down here that they briefly mention the free edition. And if you click here, then we can access the Zoho free edition, or you can see all the pricing details if you click this small link. Zoho does offer their free plan for up to 3 users. I honestly think a lot of organizations with pretty simple use cases would be fine on standard. Standard's going to include that mass emails, workflows, cadences, custom modules. These pieces I would consider pretty important regardless of what plan you're on. So you're going to want to be on standard as opposed to the free plan. But as you work your way up, it really just depends on which of the extra features and extra configuration settings you need. So for example, some companies that need to enforce a lot of process, Blueprint is going to be essential. But territory management, custom functions, multi-user portals, these are all nice to haves for a lot of businesses, or things that you could use third-party integrations if you don't want to tap into the core platform. The other thing that I want to mention is the popularity of the Zoho One pricing and packaging. Zoho One includes over 45 different applications, CRM included. It also includes their more simple CRM with kind of a nicer user experience called Begin. Bookings, forms, their sales analytics. Zoho Books, their alternative for QuickBooks. Customer support, project management, marketing automation. The fact that you can get all of these apps and take a look at the pricing. So you can take everybody in your company and say, we're going to license everybody, and they can all get access for $37 a month, or choose a subset of those users at $90. So this is a huge value play for small and medium-sized businesses that need an entire business operating system. Okay, let's give a recap and discuss Who is Zoho CRM best suited for? Okay, so if you find yourself looking for an all-in-one business platform and you like solutions that work together, that you don't necessarily have to integrate on your own, then Zoho CRM is a great choice because they have so many applications that surround not just the CRM, but you get your marketing automation, you get your invoicing and books functionality, that Zoho is going to be a great fit. Now, with all-in-one solutions at this price point, it's certainly very affordable and makes a lot more sense for people who are budget conscious. And all of these automations and configuration settings and ability to customize the platform means that you can really tailor this platform around the needs of your business. Now let's take a look at the other side. Who is Zoho CRM not a good fit for? If you find yourself wanting an easy-to-use platform that just works out of the box, I would not recommend Zoho. It's not that you have to use a paid consultant to get up and running. It's just that there's so many options and things don't just necessarily work when you're using it right away. If you have the patience to use some elbow grease and really put in the work to tailor it for yourself, that's great. But if you have a sales team that just needs to be operating today, then you probably don't want to use Zoho. Now, bear in mind, if you're just looking for something simpler, then their Bigin solution might be the right fit for you. Bigin CRM is still powered by Zoho, but it doesn't have all of the endless configuration options. So if you like the idea of what Zoho can provide, but you want it in a more digestible format, this might be worth looking into. And we'll do a separate review of Bigin down the line as well. So hopefully this has helped you figure out if Zoho CRM is the right solution for your business. If you want reviews and comparisons of other CRM solutions on the market, go ahead and check out our website at softwarefinds.com.